well said. Joining me in the studio for the remainder of today's show, Doug Campbell. He's running, well, I should put it this way, he's running for U.S. Congress. He's one of, at the moment, right, Doug, you're one of two hopefuls for the Constitution
Yes, it's
Party.
me and Earl Laughlin, and I'm going to have to go down and file a federal lawsuit in order for the Constitution Party to get back on the ballot. What happened with that Senate Bill 245 that the State House just passed, it forced us to double the amount of registered voters in the party in order to maintain our seat on the ballot in November. And you know, with one almost unanimous vote and a signature, they effectively, the Republicans and Democrats, threw the third party off of the ballot. So one of the things we can do is get to 600 total registered voters, or get 6,000 signatures on a petition, or I'm going to throw a lawsuit at them just to see what happens there, because it's been defeated in, I think, at least 5 other states when other legislatures have tried to do this.
We have a couple of callers looking to join the show. It's 6:39, and you're on WGMD, and who do we have here? Sure, go ahead, you're on the air.
And as the last caller during the last segment had, we talked about, there is enough gold. What's going to happen is the intrinsic value of gold is going to shoot through the roof. It's going to happen anyways. We're looking at a global currency devaluation, where they're going to freeze the banks and drop the value of the dollar. I'm offering the exact opposite solution if we get a hold of and freeze the banks. We've got an involuntary servitude to these banks, 30-year mortgages at fixed rate or adjustable rate mortgages with, sometimes twice the amount of interest paid to principal, and they've created the money out of nothing. This is fraud. Now, an ounce of gold back in the 1920s would buy you a nice fine suit. An ounce of gold today will still buy you a fine suit. Just because the numbers change doesn't mean that the value has changed. And there is enough gold, because once this gold goes up, for day-to-day transactions, it's going to have to be, paper that's backed by 100% silver or gold held in a vault. Right now we have notes that are printed on paper that mean absolutely nothing other than a legal tender law. Now, you shouldn't have to force a population to take a currency, especially when every time you try to put money in your savings account or money in your 401k, the banks are printing money faster and devaluing the dollar through inflation than you can save. You are losing your retirement. You're losing. They've already stolen your pensions. They're just trying to come up with a way to let you know about it.
I want to thank you for the call, and you're next on WGMD. Who do we have here?
That's exactly it. And what happened in that Federal Reserve Act is that they were given a monopoly to create this fiat paper. It was never any government. The government didn't have the authority to give that to the Federal Reserve. Go ahead.
Well, Rick, tell you what, Doug doesn't have a lot of time, so let me
just say briefly, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I want everybody to look at your cell phone right now. There's a GPS tracker in there. The NSA has the ability to open up your recorder or whatever it is and listen into your conversations without you knowing on it. You literally have to take the battery out of the phone, and with the new iPhones you can't even do that, in order to turn off this GPS or listening in device. Your OnStar systems can listen into your conversations without you knowing about it. There were laptops sent home in Philadelphia that had cameras on them that spied in children in their bedrooms at home by school administrators, and the principal goes on television and defends it. This is a technological dictatorship that we are staring in the face, and it's getting ready to stand up. And if we allow this thing to stand up and brush off and start walking, it is going to be impossible to get it back. I contend that 2010 will be the last year anybody will have any money to protest, because they're going to bankrupt you and enslave you. This is the plan. You look at all the taxes that are coming through. The taxes for the health care bill, they start immediately, but the so-called benefits don't start coming in for 6 months, 2 years, a year. It comes down the line. So you got to understand that both parties are run by banks, and you know, they don't have our best interest at heart. And the other thing is, you know, a lot of people turn back to that '92 election. Well, if Perot wouldn't been running, we would have had Bush. Like I said, there wouldn't really been much of a difference. What you got to understand is, if we can get 35% of the voting public to vote for a third party, you force a runoff. You force a runoff, you win. The third party has the ability to win. It's this false notion that's put out by party hacks that are scared to death of a third party that will come on and call into these shows specifically to make sure that they shoot the third party down.
I want to thank Rick for the call, and you're next on WGMD 647. And who do we have here?
No, there is a mad rush for gold, and it is becoming harder and harder. Like you said, it is true that they're going deeper and deeper. That's because it's taking more and more material from the earth to be able to produce any gold. So the gold is running out, but it doesn't matter what level of gold there is. There's always going to be enough. It's just the intrinsic value of the metal will go up. Whereas with paper fiat notes, the more they print, it goes down and you lose.
Well, we should point out, you go down to the ocean and if you could grab a handful of water, there's gold flecks in that. There's gold, it's just not all recoverable at the moment. There's plenty of it.
Right. And that doesn't, you know, the amount of gold, it does not concern me at all, because for smaller transactions, day-to-day stuff, we'll have certificates that will be, you know, maybe 1/10 of an ounce of silver, or maybe 1/100th of an ounce of silver. You can make small enough denominations. You can go get your cigarettes and chewing gum or whatever you're into.
We have another caller. We have to take a break in just a moment, but you're up next on WGMD. Just a first name and where you're calling from.
Ballot access? No, I'm going to have to file a federal lawsuit. I talked about that a little bit before. That we can either get some more registered voters into the Constitution Party. All we need is 600. So, I mean, if we can get some of those listeners out there to really commit and change the rules, you know, the only thing that you're saving by staying in your party is to be able to vote in the primary. Well, I mean, there are some decent guys that are running in the Republican Party. I've talked to most of them. I don't think any of them really grasp the severity of the financial situation or had any idea about what to do about it. You can't just like reinstate Glass-Steagall, which I'd like to do. You can't just eliminate naked short selling, or I'd like to eliminate all short selling. You have to fundamentally change the banking industry from a debt-based monetary policy to a gold metal-backed. Otherwise, you will never dig yourself out of this hole. This fractional reserve banking system has allowed us to fall into levels of debt that are mathematically impossible to get ourselves out of.
I want to thank Stern for the call. A quick note from a friend of mine. He says, we're not forced to use Federal Reserve notes. He said, HJR 192, that was in 1932 or 1933, was a joint resolution, not a law. Only a resolution or a sense of Congress, and there was always the Lakota Bank, etc.
Well, I'm unaware of that particular provision, but I do know that there's a legal tender law on these, you know, fiat notes. You know, if there's already something in place that will help us out, good. That's definitely not a law that's being used.
We'll take a short break. More with Doug Campbell coming up. 6:51. You're listening to the Bill Colley program on the Talk of Delmarva. He sent us the second email, though, and said you've got his vote. He's a friend of mine. He and I communicate this stuff every morning when I do my show prep at home. He's back and forth with me. This is some friends of mine have this website, Institute for Practical Finance. They love that analogy. An ounce of gold would buy you a toga in the Roman Empire. An ounce of gold bought you the suit in the 20s, and an ounce of gold.
We'll still buy you the suit today.
They used to come on my radio show in Syracuse when I worked there.